Claude Monet, Bridge over a Pond of Water Lilies. There is a question I often ask myself when standing before a great work of art: do I love this painting because I truly see it? Or because history has already told me that I should? Claude Monet, Bridge over a Pond of Water Lilies is one of the most recognizable paintings in the world. If you go to the Metropolitan Museum, you're gonna see there one of the best artworks in the museum. It's the Monet's artwork. So millions admire it every year. Museums proudly display it. Collectors dream of owning a Monet today. But why? Is it simply because his name became very famous? Or is there something deeper that continues to draw us back? I believe the answer begins long before we see the bridge, because it begins with the way Monet learned to see. When Monet designed the gardens at Giverny, he wasn't creating a backdrop for painting, he was creating a living work of art. If you look at the closely to the painting of the water lilies, every tree, every flower, every reflection, every season, every change of life, nothing was accidental. The Japanese bridge at the center of garden tells us something important. By the late 19th century, Europe had fallen in love with the Japanese prince. Artists discovered a completely different way of understanding the beauty. Japanese aesthetic were not interested in domination, but they celebrated imbalance, silence, impermanence, the beauty of the ordinary moments. How did Monet draw the Japanese lily, like Japanese garden in this artwork? So Monet became deeply fascinated by this philosophy. He collected like hundreds of Japanese wood block prints, but he did something very remarkable. He did not imitate Japan. He absorbed its way of seeing. The bridge became more than architecture, it became a pause. If you look at the artworks, definitely you're gonna pause in the flow actually. So the pond became more than water. It became a mirror of time. The lilies became more than flowers. They became light itself. So this is why I don't believe this painting is really about a garden. I think it's about perception. Look carefully. There's almost no horizon, no dramatic narrative, no heroic figures. Nothing demands for our intention, like our attention here. I will make it little like a zoom out. So now you can see the artwork much better way. You see, there is no dramatic narrative, no heroic figures. So like instead, Monet gently teach us to slow down here. The brush strokes like dissolve the solid forms. Maybe the light replaces the outlines, but the color replaces the certainty. That is why the painting never feels like finished, because nature itself is like never finished in our mind too. So that is why the what makes the Monet revolutionary here, he stopped painting what things are and began painting how they are experienced. This painting is often described as beautiful, but I think the beauty is only the beginning. Its real achievement is awareness. It reminds us that extraordinary experiences rarely happen in extraordinary places. So they happen when we learn to notice ordinary things differently. Perhaps this is why museums around the world continue to seek Monet. Not because he painted flowers, but because he changed the way humanity looks. A curator may see a turning point in the history of art. A business leader may recognize the power of long term vision. Monet spent decades returning to the same garden, proving that mastery often comes not from chasing something new, but from something seeing the familiar like more deeply. So an artist may discover that originality is not created by inventing a new world, but by observing the existing one with the greater honesty. So Perhaps all of us can take something from this painting. In a world that rewards speed, Monet rewards attention. In a world obsessed with certainty, he embraces change. In a world that constantly asks us to move forward, but he quietly reminds us to pause. Pause is very important in the arts because if you pause, everything become more clear to understand what is the reality of the objects, what is the reality to understand the chemical of the objects. So maybe that is why this painting still feels alive more than a century later, not because it shows us a bridge, but because it quietly builds one between nature and memory, between observation and imagination. So between the word we see like this and we learn, the word we learn to notice. Thank you very much.